Well, good afternoon, friends. So it's a very cold, very frigid, very hostile, very remote, but still fascinatingly beautiful continent that we are talking about. Is a large continent. That is the seventh continent on Earth, which is what we are talking about today, the Antarctica. It's a very large continent. It's fifth largest continent on the Earth. Its area is 14 million square kilometers. That doesn't tell you very much. Just try and visualize this. Is the size of India and China combined together. It's that huge. 1.5 times the size of the United States. And in that entire thing is covered with ice. And about 98% is covered with ice, and about 90% of all ice in the world is available in Antarctica. If all of that were to melt thanks to the climate change, the global warming, we are going to have a complete disaster. The world sea levels will rise by several meters, which will cause inundation world over. Now, it enjoys several superlative features, namely it's the coldest, which is very clear. The coldest temperature ever recorded was minus 93.2. It's so cold that if you toss up a mug of boiling water, it freezes before it hits the ground. That's how cold it is. That's somewhere here that it was found. It's the driest continent. With all that ice on it, how is it the driest? Some of the parts are so dry that they have had no rain or snow in the last 2 million years. It's extremely dry in the interior of the continent. It's the windiest. Around the coastal areas of Antarctica, it's so windy that you get wind speeds close to 300 kilometers an hour. You can't imagine 300 kilometers an hour. You can't stand there, you know. You have to hold on to somebody. Okay, it's the highest. The whole continent is covered with thick layer of ice. At places, it's 4.5 kilometers thick. It's that thick layer of ice. So makes the average height of the continent, the highest, is about 1.6 kilometers. It's the remotest. All other continents are connected by land, but the nearest landmass to it is about 1,000 kilometers away. That's the tip of the Southern America. It's very remote, just an island, and all around is sea. It's the emptiest. There is no native population in that huge landmass. The only people that live there are about 4,000 people in all these permanent stations in Antarctica, and about 1,000 people in that huge land in winter. We have stations. India has stations here. We are going to talk about them. The Matri station, and we have constructed a new station called Bharti. We are going to show you pictures of these stations. Now, I come to our Indian involvement in Antarctica. The first time an Indian expedition set sail to Antarctica was December 1981. This is a 21-member team that first went to Antarctica from India, the first Indian expedition to Antarctica. And I don't know if you can recognize me. I was I was one of the youngest members of the team at that time, much younger. Probably some of you here were not born at that time. So that's me without the beard. I grew beard after I got there. So anyway, led by Dr. Qasim, and we had to undergo a lot of, see, this is what I meant. When the light is on, you can't see a lot. So we had to undergo a lot of training, ice acclimatization, sea acclimatization, because there's a long sea journey, which I'm going to show you. We used an icebreaker class ship, a Norwegian ship called Polar Circle, and this is how we did. We started from Goa, went to Antarctica. On the way, we stopped at Mauritius. This is about 12,000 kilometers. A long sea journey that took us almost a month. I'm going to show you pictures of that. So initially, when you set sail, you are going through Arabian Sea and around the equator. The sea is very nice and quiet. You get such beautiful views. Imagine on the sea, for days together, all around you is such beautiful waters and sunrise, sunset, fish, and all kinds of things. We sighted some whales too. Unfortunately, I don't have pictures of those. But come the 40 and 50 degrees south, and this area is called the roaring Forties because you notice that there are no land masses here. This is open ocean, and almost all the time there are cyclone systems, huge cyclone systems, which don't dissipate because there is no land mass. And what you get are extremely turbulent water. You get sea waves that are about the size of a 3-story building. It's a huge, huge disturbed water. So on board the ship, when you do experiments, you have to tie all your equipment with ropes and nuts and bolts and everything. Otherwise, you can't even move around. Everything will get destroyed. So then you cross the roaring Forties and you start seeing the first icebergs. The sea is quieter. You see icebergs at a distance. And then you see such wonderful birds like wandering albatrosses. These albatrosses are huge birds with largest wingspan in the world, about 12 feet across. So they follow you for miles together. Then you start seeing the frozen sea, you know. And then there's this frozen sea all around, and your ship is gradually chugging along, and you start flying the helicopters trying to see where to land. And then you start seeing flat-topped icebergs, and these icebergs are so fascinatingly beautiful, and imagine your ship is wandering through them, getting further down south. And then on some iceberg, you see some nice little penguins too. So finally, this is a very historic day. We first land in Antarctica on 9th of January 1982. This is our ship Polar Circle. I'm taking this picture from a helicopter. This is the helipad. And this is another very historic picture. This is our 21-member team when we first landed in Antarctica, 9th of January 1982. So that's our leader. Again, I don't know if you can recognize me. That's me. So that's us. And then the penguins greet us. That's me trying to feed the penguins some milk or something. But these guys are very particular about what they don't eat anything from us. And then we set up a camp. Initially, in the first expedition, we didn't have a station, so we had to make do with such army tents. We just camped and did our experiments, all the scientific work in these tents. And we used these snow scooters to travel around. Imagine a vast wilderness of only ice and extreme cold and real solid winds there. And finally, a year later, in the third expedition, we started establishing our first permanent Indian station, Dakshin Gangotri. This is the initial building work. This was constructed on the ice shelf. So this is the first Indian permanent station, Dakshin Gangotri, which was established in March 1983. This is a 2-story building which has a hatch at the top. People entered this, and there's a SATCOM terminal at the top. These are 2 wings. And I go back on the 8th expedition as the leader of the expedition, and this is what I see. See, the entire station still exists, but it's gone under the ice. You put any hot object on ice, it gradually sinks. The entire station you can recognize from the hatches. So earlier we used to enter it from the ground floor, now we enter the station from the hatch. But inside, we are standing on top. Underneath is the station fully functional. This is and inside there's a laboratory. People are working comfortably. Now, we had to unfortunately abandon this station because in 1990 this was abandoned because it was getting very dangerous. Because should some mishap happen, there's no way in which people can escape from there. So that's why we went further 80 kilometers down south, and we established our second permanent station called Matri, which was on a rock outcrop. Remember, I told you there are 2% of Antarctica which is not covered by ice. This is one small such thing. This is one of the hills on the Shrimarkar range where we set up our second permanent station. We start setting it up, and helicopters transport a lot of material 80 kilometers from the ship to the station. The building gradually comes up, and finally the second Indian permanent station, Matri, in 1989. And that's me in white with my team. I was the leader of the team, and I'm leaving behind a wintering team for the coming winter. I'm very proud of this station, not because it was constructed in my expedition under my leadership, but because almost everything about this station was completely indigenous. You know, barring just the satellite communication terminal and one more item, everything else was made in India. This is back in 1988. So, all the generators were Kirloskar generators, washing machines were Sumit washing machine, and what have you. The entire station was constructed by the DRDO R&D establishment in Pune, and everything. You know, the water pumps and the generators, everything was made in India. So I'm really proud of this station. And this is the picture from the helicopter that I took of the station on the last day of my leaving. Now, this station has a main wing here where people live and work, and this is the satellite communication terminal. This is the kitchen and the bathroom, and these are the generators. And see this extra thing? This is where we have a toilet, and remember, there is extreme cold there, so you can't, no amount of waste can be casually disposed of. The human waste, you know, which is a very dangerous thing, if you let it out in the open and it percolates down into your lake from where you get your water, that's going to be a disaster. So we have to have a toilet where we burn all our human waste very, very carefully. This is an incinerator toilet which is built separately. So one has to be extremely careful in Antarctica how you deal with human waste and other kinds of waste. You are not allowed to pollute that. So this is another picture of the Matri station. Years later, one of my much younger friends gave this to me. This station has been operational all these 20 odd years, even more. It's still functioning. So we're really proud of this station. And another thing I'd request, this is all the year round operational. There's a summer party that goes and works here and leaves behind a party to work in winter. Now remember, summers and winters are very interesting in Antarctica. Unfortunately, because of shortage of time, I'm not able to show you pictures of how the sun goes around during daytime. In summer, you have 24 hours daylight. The sun goes from here, goes round, and that's midnight, and then it goes up again. It doesn't go up, and in winter, there's total darkness. So it's very disorienting. It's very fascinating. So this is another picture of Matri with some foreigners visiting us. Now, we are doing some experiments near the lake on air sampling and inside the lab, and our geologists go to the mountains to do some geological studies. Now, we have constructed a third Indian station, as I said, in Larsman Hills, far away from where Matri is, and this is the third Indian Antarctic station, which was constructed in March 2012. And this again, unfortunately, is not made in India. This is a private contract with a German company, but this is a state-of-the-art station called Bharti, and this is how beautiful it looks. So, why is science, why are we spending so much money? Why are we taking so much trouble to go and set up a station and work in Antarctica? Why is science in Antarctica interesting? It's arguably the most untouched, undisturbed region on the planet. Being remote, isolated, frozen all year, science offers many advantages anywhere else on Earth. For example, it has the cleanest air in the world, allowing air quality monitoring with reliability. See, anywhere else in the world, you monitor the air, the pollution levels go up, but if the day they start going up in Antarctica, you know it's a global phenomenon. So this provides some kind of a reference baseline. It is the darkest place on Earth in winter. It's an ideal setting for astronomical research. At the bottom of the food chain are those krills that I showed you. They're found in abundance, trillions of tons. Allows scientists to better understand environmental impact on humans. So what are the Indian scientists studying in Antarctica? We are working on meteorology, global climate change. There's a lot of work that's going on. There's a direct connection between the Antarctic temperatures and the Indian monsoon. We study geology and glaciology. We study earth sciences. We study astronomy and astrophysics. We study aeronomy. It's the study of the upper atmosphere, for those of you who are not familiar. And we do a lot of radio communication and satellite communication studies in Antarctica. We study the marine biology, you know, all the flora and fauna. And we study, this is extremely important, we study human biology under stress. It's an extremely stressful experience for somebody to be taken on board a ship, you know, under those roaring 40s for a month, being there completely isolated, such hostile atmosphere. So you have to study human biology under stress. So that's what we do in Antarctica. Finally, I think I just want to sign off with a short remark. See, the pictures that I've showed you in this entire period are very nice pictures. But you must realize that these nice pictures are possible only when the weather is fine. You know, you have good weather, nice sunshine, no storm, no nothing, and which is there only for a short period. Most of the time, it's such terrible weather, I can't even take pictures. But then I don't show you those pictures. So you must remember that. And another thing that you must remember is that apart from the beauty and nice adventure, you have other problems, like it's very hazardous. If there is a fire accident, you've had it. There's plenty of ice all around, but there is no water to extinguish fire. And there are other hazards there. So with that, thank you very much for your attention. I hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you.